Welcome to the Firelock and Quill podcast. I am Jason Gatliff, and I'm joined by my fellow host, Ryan Kerr and Ethan Yazel. How are you guys doing this afternoon?
Great. Yeah, it feels really good to be here and to be doing this again.
I've had a lot of people ask about this, wanting us to get, wanting to see more collaboration. So I'm excited that we've got this going and we've defeated the technical issues that plague everything.
Well, I don't know if we've defeated them. We just worked around them.
There we go.
So what's new with you guys?
I think I'm just kind of bumping along right now. It's not very exciting. At the coffee shop, we're kind of getting through the doldrums of winter, as I'm calling them, but kind of getting that itch again, being through the holidays of wanting to get back into, kind of muzzleloading and the traditional craft side of things, and wanting to be kind of creative in that regard, but then also looking forward to the year and getting excited about some events happening. There were a couple events last weekend. There's a couple events this coming weekend, and I'm really excited to have a little time to get out and meet people and talk again. And I think that's part of my excitement for us getting together. It's been a long time since I've been somewhere to sit down and talk about this stuff, and now we're getting this going, which feels really good.
Man, yeah. I've got a lot of irons in the fire right now. We just kind of ramped up a new year at Townsend's, and we're kind of putting ideas together and projecting different goals and that sort of thing. Nicole and I wrapped up our second year of Blue Lion Coffee ownership, which has been crazy. And with that comes a lot of changes. We decided to go ahead and buy a new roaster that's got a larger capacity, and we're actually moving the physical location of the roastery to have some more space to work. So that's actually happening like right now, like today. I'm running test roasts in the new roaster today. I'm also started booking like musical performances again. So
nice.
I've got over the next it's not going crazy, but I think through the beginning of April I got like 5 shows, and most of them are in, I think they're all in Indiana and Ohio. So, but yeah, just kind of trying to scrape everything in and do it all at one time. So I'm sure I'll crash and burn, but it's going to be a fun night.
What about you, Jason? Fill us in.
That's more of the same, just publishing, shipping orders, nothing really new going on. Got a couple of projects on the back burner. We're working on a project with Ryan that is hopefully be coming out in the next couple of months.
Awesome.
Also working on the digital edition of Muzzleloader, which has taken me longer than I would like, but it is what it is. But that'll be coming up sometime before the end of February for sure.
Oh, that's awesome.
So that's not just a couple clicks and it's done,
No, because with the digital edition, people will get access to the 2023 and 2024 back issues, as well as the 2025 issues also.
Okay.
So I'm having to go in and convert them to a different file, and with different versions of InDesign, it's a pain.
Sorry, I'm laughing because of the way you're like holding your arm like this, and it keeps doing
That's just the vibe that Jason is bringing. He's just bringing cool guy. Everything's good.
Yeah, we got to figure out how to turn that off on the Discord.
That's great.
I didn't even know it did that till we had our meeting last week.
Right.
Yeah, I had no idea.
I've been using this thing for years with the Townsend's crew. We have like weekly meetings, and I've never seen anything pop up before until you come along, and it's just thumbs up everywhere.
Yeah. Well, I particularly like the double thumbs down.
Right.
That might be my personal favorite. I wonder what a double thumbs up is.
Oh, it's just the thumb up.
Just the one.
Yeah, it's pretty lame.
I feel like we are cavemen discovering a new technology with this.
I wouldn't go with new technology. Maybe we've discovered a sharpened stick from a dull stick. All right. So in this episode of the podcast, we want to talk about the 2025 event season, events that we're going to be attending and that we want to recommend in spring, summer, and fall. So, Ryan, what events are you going to be doing this year?
Oh man, do you want to hear them all?
Yeah, throw them out there.
Okay, so this is what is on the calendar as for sure. We're shooting to do these events, and then after that we have some other events that we'd kind of like to check out. Sometimes when we go to an event for the first time, we'll just go walk through just to see if it's our thing or not. So we got Kalamazoo, and that's coming right up.
That's coming real fast.
Is that the second or third weekend? Is it technically the third weekend of March?
I believe it's the third
Saturday.
Third Saturday, but second full
always
weekend.
on that third Saturday.
Yeah. Okay. So Kalamazoo, and then we got Fort Fred. That's the last weekend of April, and I've been there for walkthroughs and for video work. Nicole's never been there. I think the only other member of my family is Reese. I took him there for his 9th birthday. And he was just kind of like, man, this is really hot. Can we do something different? So, and the answer was, man, sorry, we can't do anything different. And then the event that I'm on the board of, 5 Metals, is up in Napanee, and that's in May. It's the first weekend. Vincennes is the 4th weekend of May, and that is an event that Blue Lion has been doing for, I think, since it started, something like 30 years. The Fort de Chartres Rendezvous, and that is the first weekend of June. Now, Jason, you don't go to that one, right?
I do not go to Fort de Chartres in June. I will be there twice this year, which we'll get to in a minute, but it won't be June. Yeah. June is a little too hot for me.
Yeah, we've heard that it's really hot. We wanted to go last year, but we had a medical thing, so we couldn't. So we're going to go give it a shot. Fort Niagara, we walked through that last year, and it was awesome. Have you guys been there before?
Never have.
No, I'd like to, though.
Man, really, really cool fort. Yeah, I don't know. We're really excited about that event. So we're going to be set up there this year. I don't know much about this event, and I don't know what's going to happen here. This is a maybe, but there's an event up in Mackinac that apparently lasts for a full week. And we've got some friends that go that really want us to go. So we're going to try to. But also, right in that area, we've got a family trip that we're going to take with her folks. So we'll see what happens. Stone Straits is the first weekend of September. That is just up the road from us, up in Ligonier, Indiana. Mississinawa 1812, this is the first weekend of October, and it's year back after 1 year off. So we're really, really pumped about that. That was my first reenacting event, and it's always been one of my favorites. Feast of the Hunter's Moon is the second weekend of October. That's our biggest event of the year. I think it's a lot of people's biggest event of the year. We're just so busy that we don't look up. We just keep our head down and work all day and meet really cool people when we have time to shake hands. Massac is the third weekend of October down in Metropolis, Illinois. And we did that for the first time just this last October, and that was really cool. We're going to go again. And then we plan to we'll see what happens and how tired we are, but we plan to go to the Colonial Market Days in Lebanon, Indiana, the 4th weekend of October. So, yeah, lots of events. I'm still curious about the Mount. There's an event at Mount Vernon that I'm not sure what all the names of their events are. I think it's their market fair.
Yeah, the one that's like the 3rd weekend in September.
Yep. Yeah. So, do you go to that one, Jason?
I've been to it a couple of times. It's not really my audience. It's mostly non-reenactors there. So mostly just people coming through the gates. So I didn't do really well there, but it was a really good event and it was fun. And they treat you really really well there. They really take care of their vendors. They have a big dinner for the vendors on Friday night. Uh, it's really cool.
Okay. Yeah, I'm curious about that. I don't know if I'll be able to squeeze it in this year, but um, our friend Valerie Skinner says that it's a really good event that we should try out. The CLA, just I've got a lot of buddies that are going to be there, so I thought maybe I'd try to squeeze in that. If not, I'll just day trip in and walk through. Same thing with Log Cabin. Um, and then there's another event that's close to here called Trail of Courage. I've never been. I've got friends that want us to go. I doubt that I'll make it happen this year, but it's on my short list of just give it a try if I can.
And you're going to these as the Blue Lion Coffee Company, right, Ryan?
Yeah, so we go as Blue Lion Coffee. We sell coffee there, whole bean, chocolate covered espresso beans, that sort of thing. I also always bring along Townsend's catalogs, and I'm happy to talk to people about Townsend's related things too. So I'm basically there just to talk about whatever folks want to talk about, and a lot of that is just like research that we've done in the past or stuff that's upcoming, and a lot of folks will give me their 2 cents on things that I'm looking into, and it's really helpful. So it's fun. It's a fun research tool, really, to have random people walk up and say, "Oh, I've researched that before," and then they can give you information, which is really cool.
What do you guys look for? I know, Jason, we'll get to your schedule here too, but you guys are going to these events. You enjoy them, but it's also the business side of things too for your businesses. What are you looking for out in an event? When you're going and just visiting an event once, what changes your mind or what makes you want to go back next year and set up, as one of the vendors and share what you've brought?
I mean, for me, it depends on number one, if I can make money, because it is a business.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, it depends on the weather. I don't do hot events. I'm over that. And then number three is if I've got friends there. If I can have fun at an event, that's an absolute bonus.
Yeah, I think that fits. It's strange. I think for me to answer this because it might surprise some people, but I have never been to an event and it not been work. Never in my life. Because if it's not selling coffee or it's not selling knee breeches, then it's shooting videos and taking pictures. But like I've never, even when I go to Martin Station as just a camper all those years, I was still working the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
So I've actually never gone to an event like what Jason will describe and just like sat around the fire. Like just to sit around the fire. Like usually, I mean, I'd love to do that, but usually it's sitting around a fire to talk to people about the video that we're going to shoot with them or something like that. But it's always like there's an end goal.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I don't think about events in that sense of like pure enjoyment. Because there's work to be done,
Yeah. Well, you really should go to an event sometime just for fun.
I don't even know what I would do with myself.
Right, yeah. When you've done it this one way, how do you detach from that?
You hang out with friends and visit with friends. It'd be great.
So do you just like, well, but you go and you're working as well.
Not always. Like when we come to Martin's, I don't bring a single magazine with me.
Yeah.
Unless
Jason does not work at Martin Station. There's no work happening from Jason.
I mean, if somebody tells me, "Hey, can you bring me these magazines?" so they save shipping, I'm happy to do that. But no, Martin's is a very special place in my heart. Jenna and I both worked there. We had an 18th century wedding there. That's just a fun event. It's nice to go and not have to be reliant on working. It's nice to just go have fun. And it's not like I'm just sitting around by the fire. I participate in the programs and help out the station. But it's just a blast.
Well, I think that does sound like it would be really neat, but it's hard for me to imagine just kind of going and carrying a stool or a chair from campsite to campsite and just visiting with people. It sounds so much fun, but I I I have become a person that I used to make fun of, and that is like if I'm not working, I'm kind of unsettled.
Yeah.
Um,
I feel
and
that a
I
lot.
used to think that was so bogus, but
How,
I'm so used to it now.
how old were you, Ryan?
I'm 38.
I was about the same way at that age, and then you kind of cycle back around where you
Hmm.
just, you know, you want to have some fun.
Okay. Yeah, I would love. I just feel like I even when I'm like at home and I'm like sit down with like the family to watch something or whatever, it feels like I should be doing other things. Although
Oh,
I shouldn't. I should just be spending time with my family, but I have a hard time with that sometimes.
yeah, no, I
Yeah.
get that. I have a laptop next to my recliner. If I look down and see I've got an email on my phone, I'll pick it up and reply or print an order or whatever, all from the living room while I'm doing whatever else.
Right. It's to the point where I'll have like no electronics
Yeah.
times. I'll
Yeah,
just leave them, shut them off, whatever. Not because and I don't feel like drawn to them or like an addiction kind of thing. I don't
right.
really play games or like scroll social media. I don't like that stuff very much. But I will check emails and that sort of thing. So I'll just kind of shut those distractions down.
Right.
I think that's a symptom of you know small business ownership, or however you want to look at that, however you want to define that, because I think there's you're not getting paid when you're not doing nothing. A lot of cases, and I think that's just where we get locked into that, and it's so easy to sit down and do something. Not that it's bad. I do the same thing. Like
Yeah.
if the girls are asleep when I get home from the coffee shop, I will make a little list and try to knock things out, based on how loud Caroline is snoring. Like, okay, I've got 10 minutes or I've got an hour and a half. I'm just going to knock a few things out.
I really enjoy Paisley's drawings that she posts of her and Caroline on Instagram.
Yeah.
I love
They
those.
they are hilarious.
I
Her
want that
slice
to
of life
be.
stuff just glows.
I want it to be compiled like into something that could be purchased. I think they're great.
I
Like,
think,
and that idea of like one of my favorite types of books is the journal memoir kind of thing, where it's not concise, it's not like a through line story, it's just these snippets here and there. And I think that it would lend itself really well to that.
yeah, I think that's something that we're looking at now that
Sorry,
life, what's that?
his name is Craig Thompson. I'm sorry, it just
Craig
came
Thompson.
into my
Oh, no, I'm glad you found it. I think that's something that we're looking at. I think having kids really changed how we thought about things artistically and kind of like our production pipeline. Uh, Before having our first, I mean, we just worked constantly, um, and just drew all the time, filled sketchbooks. Like if we were watching TV, we were drawing. If we went anywhere, we were drawing. And now that we've got one, we have another one on the way. Like our at least my brain doesn't work like that anymore. Like I'm always there's always something else that I'm focused on doing or chasing, or cleaning up after. And I think that Paisley's certainly looking at that in the future of kind of compiling those, and at least if nothing else for us, because it's going to be like a little its own photo album, but with a lot of more emotion, I think, to it, because there's just these fun drawings of it.
I think that happens in like um I don't know. I feel like for the first two kids, and it's probably just my age because I was so young when I had kids, I could muscle through and still like maintain some artistic quality or something like that. But by the time the third one came along, it was just like really hard for me to keep writing music all the time and still spend time with the kids. Like it just.
Yeah.
And now, I don't, I don't write a whole lot these days. I'm doing other things, but I'm sure it'll come back around.
Oh yeah. I think that's one of those seasons that we go through.
By the way, I was just Googling the thumbs up, and I think it's because I'm using my phone as my camera. I think it's a setting
Ah.
in iOS.
Mm.
Hey, speaking of the events that Ryan listed, you failed to mention one major thing when I asked you what was new with you, Ethan, and that is you are taking over Kalamazoo.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's probably one of the biggest things for us. It's been kind of a jam-packed year. Last summer, we took over our local coffee shop, and we have our second baby on the way. And we managed to time that baby. She's due the week after Kalamazoo. So we're right up against the wire on three fronts here, which I don't recommend at all. But yes, this year will be kind of a training year for me and my wife to work alongside the current show owners, Rick and Leslie Conwell. We've been working with them really since the planning for this year's show started, and kind of been alongside them with all of the pre-production for the show. And then at the show, and before the show, during the show, and after the show for this year, we're acting as kind of a collaborative group. And then in 2026, it'll be formally our show. And we'll be moving forward with that, as scary as that is to say out loud. But we're very excited. It's going to be an awesome. I've loved the show. I've worked at the show for nearly 20 years. I started back when it was Hazel Gray. I was one of the door people at the Hazel Gray South Door, and I've just kind of moved around the show where Rick and Leslie needed me. I helped set up like the educational seminar room, and I've recorded seminars for them and done various other things. And it's a real honor, and we're very excited to be working with them to continue the show.
No, I think you and Paisley will do a fantastic job with the show.
Thank you.
I have the nothing but love for y'all, and I think y'all will do fantastic.
Thank you. It's a fantastic show. I mean, it's one of my favorite shows ever. Like I said, I've gone to it for 20 years, but it's
Mhm.
to me, it's always kind of been a living history convention almost. Like if you've gone to like a Comic-Con or something like that, it's in many ways like that for living history. Because of its scale, it's so large, and you're at an indoor venue, so you have kind of the same trappings of like a comic convention or a pop culture convention, but it's much
Nerd.
cooler. Yeah, I'm a big nerd. You got me. Um,
A lot of
but
people have reached out to me about you guys taking it over,
oh my,
and I haven't heard hesitation once. Like everybody's just really excited
okay,
about it.
Yeah.
cool. No,
Yeah,
we're really excited.
So, Ethan, what events are you going to be doing this year? I know it's going to be a little bit different with the coffee shop and all of that.
Yeah, before the coffee shop, I was able to get to a lot of events because I was free on weekends and I had vacation time. And this has been kind of an abrupt change because we took over really quickly. The previous owner really wanted to retire for some health reasons, and so a lot of my travel plans have really constricted. On top of having our second baby on the way, um, our big days at the shop are Friday and Saturday, which is makes it tough to get out. We have a great staff here, but I don't like leaving them. I just don't like leaving them. I feel I feel bad leaving them with a lot of work to do. But in February, I should be at the Connor Long Rifles show on Sunday because the shop is closed on Sunday. And then I believe that's the 15th, the weekend of the 15th in February in Noblesville, Indiana, at the 4-H fairgrounds there. That's a show I've been going to forever. It's a nice kind of it's a smaller show, but it's kind of my first weekend to get out because I live far enough north to get lake effect that I don't risk traveling a whole lot earlier than that. And then the Kalamazoo Living History Show, of course. I'll be
Of
going up
course.
on Wednesday to start setting up for that, and then coming home that next Monday or Tuesday after we get everything completed for that. And then it's kind of a dead zone for me for a while. I should be day tripping over to Five Metals because that's not too far from where I'm at. I might try to stay over that Saturday night after the shop closes, but that'll kind of depend on the girls and how they're feeling. But if nothing else, hopefully take the whole family up and take baby number two to her first living history show, provided that she's not born during Kalamazoo, which we really hope doesn't happen. Um, but I
I
think
am
that'll be
assuming
fun.
I am assuming Paisley will not be at Kalamazoo, right?
Yes, yeah, we're giving Paisley she's got a big doctor's note that nobody has asked that she be there, and Rick and Leslie have been super understanding that she not be on her feet that long for the show. So I'll be driving up, and then if I have to leave, it will be because baby number two is coming, and Paisley needs me. So I have a good excuse that if I leave, and Rick and Leslie have been great through that whole process of being really supportive and you know being willing to take care of everything and walk us through things as needed afterwards if something like that happens. But
Right.
hoping to take all the girls to Five Metals if we can, at least for the day, to walk around and hang out. That may have been Caroline's second or third event when it was in the fall. Um,
Uh,
so it's kind of a family thing for us. As we're involved in different capacities. Um, with that event, but it's close enough for us to take the kids out and have a good time. And then after that will likely be the National Muzzleloading Rifle Association spring shoot in June, but that'll be kind of a slingshot trip for me. Um, Bob Woodfill is going to have a really great Hawken and Hawken era exhibit in the education center there that he wants me to come down and film. So um, it's looking like when the shop closes on Saturday, I'll drive down to Friendship, wake up Sunday, film, and then come back to open up the shop. Not ideal. I'd love to spend a longer time and hang out and shoot, but it's just got to be like that for right now. And that's kind of the theme of things as we get things balanced out with the family and with the business. It's been really exciting for us, and it's been wonderful getting more involved in the community. We've just got to make sure that we've got everything balanced before I can start being away a little bit more, like I'd like to be for the muzzleloading stuff. But after that, the CLA in August down in Lexington. It's one of my favorite shows to go to. I'm a volunteer member of their board, so it's important that I'm there. And my staff was really good last year about covering the shop while that event happened, so that I could be there, and I'm hoping to be there again. And then probably a slingshot trip for the National Muzzleloading Rifle Association fall shoot in September. And then it's looking like probably day trips the rest of the year um, with things like the Feast of the Hunter's Moon in Lafayette, Mississinawa 1812. Really would like to be there for their,
yeah.
first year, like you said, um, just to be there and show support, but also to photograph and film for the channel if I can, just to help spread the word about what they're doing and the new site and things, and show people what that's like in case they've kind of fallen out of sync with the gap year that they had. Um, and then Colonial Market Days in Lebanon. I've been going to that for several years now, just day tripping to hang out and talk. And that's a close enough event for us that it's a good little family outing to get out of town and get away from the shop and things. Again, on a Sunday, but that's kind of how that works. And then this past fall, I actually hosted an event, the I Love Muzzleloading Historic Trekking Weekend, we called it. And I'm hoping to do that again this year, but we've not set dates yet, because it's just been things have been so condensed with the holidays in Kalamazoo. But once we get through the Kalamazoo show, looking at getting dates on the calendar or making the call to not have it, just depending on how Paisley's pregnancy goes and things, and what it looks like with having two kids, because that's going to change our life a lot. But really hoping to keep that going because we had a really great time. I learned a lot and got a lot of great feedback on how to improve that event. But that was the first weekend of November. And so that's kind of an open time slot for a lot of people. It's before deer season starts here in Indiana, and it's after things like Colonial Market Days the last weekend of October. So, trying to balance things there so we're not eating into other events, but also getting it done before any nasty weather could come in. And that's kind of how my calendar looks. I know it's kind of scattered and there's a lot of
Yeah.
stipulations to it, but
I had no idea
Uh,
that was going to be a reoccurring event. That's really cool.
yeah, it's really daunting, and it was I learned a lot, and maybe that's something that we could talk about, on another episode. But um, I wasn't sure if we would, but people, even like after the first day, were talking about what they'd like to see next year, and that they hope to see it going. One of the best parts for me was we had an age range of 12 to 79, and
Yeah.
bringing those age demographics together, apart from the shooting and the hiking through the woods and the fun that brings, like those conversations at camp and the knowledge that was passed around and the stories that were shared really were the gold for me, and the kind of those were the things that people kept bringing back during the event and after, as what they were looking forward to next year, and everybody there really wanted me to. um, so it's that knowledge sharing and those stories that came out of it, I think, that really pushed me over the edge to want to keep doing it. It's not a moneymaker, but it is, I think, a really good thing to do. So it's the kind of thing that I'd like to, the rest of the year, work business wise so that I can do something like that, because it was a lot of people's first time out at something like that. And I'm hoping that it kind of gets people's feet wet and encourages people to
yeah.
do more like it, if that makes sense.
Oh no, yeah, it absolutely makes sense. I will say, just from a purely selfish standpoint, if you do it the second weekend of November, I will do everything I can to come.
And I think with Colonial Market Days shifting to the last weekend in October, I don't want to run into that.
Hmm.
Just because I've known Casey and Abby for a long time, and I like that event, and I don't want to. We're close enough regionally. I don't want to cannibalize if I don't have to. Um, and that comes down to weather, really, which is kind of a stinker. Like for the week leading up to the event, it looked like it was going to rain almost not the whole time, but a big chunk of it. And I was trying to update people like, "Hey, we're going to keep going. Be ready to be cold and wet. Like we're going to try to power through this, and we'll have some really good stories come out of it." But thankfully
Yeah,
the rain moved out, and so that's kind of the balance of that, of trying to plan something that late in the year here.
yeah. Well,
Uh,
the other thing is if it's the first weekend of November, that's going to conflict with the Fort de Chart Winter Rendezvous in
Yeah,
Illinois, which
I
is a
think we timed the same weekend this past year, which I didn't want to do.
yeah, I believe you did. You know, that's a big event. There's about 30 teams there shooting the
Hmm.
Woods Walk. It's a team shoot, 5-man teams, and it is a lot of fun.
Yeah, I've always
I've been
heard
thinking,
great things about that.
yeah, same.
All right. So the events that I'm going to be doing this year are going to be the Lake Cumberland Artisan Show, and it is the second weekend of February, so around the 7th, 8th. I don't have the dates right in front of me, but that is at the Lake Cumberland State Resort Park in Jamestown, Kentucky. It's a little indoor artisan show Mel Hankel puts on. Fantastic show. It's probably one of my favorite shows of the year. It's my favorite indoor show, period.
Huh.
That show is so laid back and so just cool. It's just
Yeah,
awesome.
it's super laid back. It's super intimate. You get to spend time with people. We don't set up there, but we will be doing photography there with Rick Lambert. So we'll be photographing for future artisan articles we've got coming out later this year and next year. After that, I'll be at Kalamazoo the third weekend of March. I've been doing that show since 2001. So a long time running there.
Yeah, that is a long time.
And then the first weekend in April, I'll be at um, the Colonial Market Fair at Fort de Chart in Prairie du Rocher, Illinois. It's about 60 miles south of St. Louis. It's a really, really good juried event. Not a huge event, but it's a good event. And then the last weekend of April is my absolute favorite event of the year, and that is Fort Frederick, the Fort Frederick Market Fair. It is huge. There's probably 100, 150 merchants, a couple hundred camps. and it is a blast. So I highly, highly recommend that event.
I cannot wait for the event this year.
It's so much fun.
Like it's the event. It's an event that if you've ever been to, you've imagined what it would be like to be a vendor at that event.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can't wait to go set up there, especially with like the whole crew. Like, I can't wait to watch Silas like hunting Indians, there. Like, having himself a ball.
Oh yeah, no, that'll be great. He'll really enjoy that. After that'll be Martin Station, the second weekend of May. Again, that's an event we go to as a family just for fun. We don't do business. We just go play there. Then after that will be Friendship, the second weekend of June, the National Muzzleloading Rifle Association Spring Shoot, where we have a booth on Commercial Row. We're only there the first weekend, but I'll be there from set up and open from Friday through Monday, and then I'll usually go home Tuesday. Next up for me will be the Contemporary Long Rifle Association show. Absolutely fantastic show. It's my second favorite event of the year. And like Ethan, I also sit on the board of directors. Can't say enough good things about the organization, the mission that they're doing, how important it is for promoting long rifle culture and the artisans in long rifle culture. Then back to Friendship, the second weekend in September for the NMLRA Fall Shoot. Then Log Cabin Shop, their Early American Trades Fair, the second weekend of October. That's in Lodi, Ohio. Another fantastic event.
Yep.
And, I feel if you're into muzzle loading, there's 3 road trips you should really take. At some point, you need to go to one of the big shoots at Friendship. You need to go to Dixie Gun Works, and you need to go to Log Cabin Shop. They've been pillars in muzzle loading for so long. It's just worth seeing. And they're not Log Cabin Shop and Dixie. They're not just a store. They've got a museum. They've got a lot of antiques. They've got a lot of the history of the sport. It's really, really great. And then my final event for the year will be the Fort de Chartres Winter Rendezvous. And we may or may not shoot in the Woods Walk. We've shot in it several times. We usually do pretty okay, but we haven't decided if we're gonna shoot or not.
What's how large is that event?
Gosh, I don't know. It's pretty big. It's not as big as the June Rendezvous, but it's bigger than the spring rendezvous or the spring colonial market fair.
For 2 years running, I've wanted to do that event. But it just hasn't worked out. What weekend did you say that one is?
It's the first weekend in November.
I might have to make it out to that.
You should.
I would really, really love to. I like the people associated with that event quite a bit. I have spent what little time I spend around campfires. I have spent with some folks that help put that event together, and I really like it. I like those folks. So
yeah, they're great people. It's great people. It's a great site. The shoot is always a blast. I mean, it's an incredible amount of fun. So yeah, I definitely recommend that. Tentatively, we might be set up at Mississinawa. I've been talking to Heather.
Oh, nice.
Got to see if Kyle wants to do it. For those that don't know, usually Kyle Williard of Old Dominion Forge and we set up together at a lot of shows and a lot of events. And if I'm interested in doing it, if I can talk him into it, we'll be set up there as a merchant.
If you make your decision soon enough, I think I could get you next to us if you wanted to hang.
Oh, that'd be cool. That'd be great.
That'd be awesome. Nothing like recording a podcast with delicious Blue Lion coffee. There's a little ad spot.
I just bought this guitar this week, Jason.
Oh yeah, what is it? Ooh,
it's like Godin's
nice.
Godin's answer to a Les Paul Jr. with a humbucker. And this P90 is the fattest pickup I've ever used.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
What about the P98?
P98. I don't know.
You said so many words I have no context for. I was out of the blue there, man.
It's a joke here that I don't know. But
P90X
how's it slap?
Every day is leg day.
Yeah, right. Yeah, Ethan, I almost text you because I'm playing in your college town.
No way.
And I was going to tell you about it, but it might be the due date. Like it's the weekend after Kalamazoo.
Oh shoot. Sorry, Pace. I got to bail.
Yeah. So
I got to go
Ryan's playing
relive
the
my
beer.
20s. Yeah, Ryan's playing at the bar I never went to in college.
So you're
It
going to
was too,
relive last week.
it was too trendy. Yeah. Thank you.
All right. I'm good to go. If you guys are feeling frisky, we should jump.
And we're back.
Okay.
Okay, so
So go for it.
we've outlined and talked about quite a few events here. Uh, Maybe we should break down some of the differences of these events because to us, there's this variety that we know. But Jason, Ryan, could you break down a couple of these event types and what's different about them for somebody who's never been to these? Because you've talked about several events that I've never been to, and I think it'd be cool to break that down.
You want to handle this, Ryan, or you want me to?
Why don't you let me knock off what I know?
Okay.
You know more than I do. So the biggest difference that we're gonna see in um, in in all these different types of living history events is the purpose and also how historically accurate they want people to be, right?
Mm,
So there are different purposes for events. So there are events where you go to buy things. It's a shopping event. There are battle reenactment events. There are woods walk events, which I'll let the shooters talk about. But and then there are varying levels of how period correct people want you to show up and be. And it's true. A general rule of thumb is the bigger the event gets, the harder it is to keep it really period correct. Right now, there are exclusions of that. There are some really massive events that are very well juried. So and sometimes it's a people group thing. There are some people that just want to get together and be old timey and have fun with their friends, and those events are usually called rendezvous. If you guys disagree with anything that I'm saying, you just say so. Um, I'm not sure where rendezvous actually originated, other than they are very old events that people did get together to seek company and to do trading and that sort of thing. And it's kind of a paying homage to that is carried through.
I think
Yeah.
this
So
is
So,
the 200th anniversary of one of the first like documented rendezvous, isn't it?
right, yeah,
25,
yes,
1825, I think.
yeah. So some of them, there's like this. It's gone all the way through, and they've never stopped. And then some of them, rendezvous kind of sprang up to get the spirit of what
Hmm.
was happening at one time. But rendezvous generally are not super concerned with people being very period correct. And when I say period correct, I mean wearing clothing that was actually worn in the time period. Because we have clothing that was actually worn and is correct. And then we have clothing that looks the part. And looking the part is generally what you're going for at a rendezvous. Although people will attend, they go to other events and have maybe more perfect clothing, and they'll wear that type of thing too. So it's kind of like if you maybe if you want to get involved and you want to be kind of loose and just have fun with your family, you don't want to invest a ton of money into a hobby that you don't know if you're going to like yet. Going to a rendezvous is probably the easiest way to get your foot in the door and just experience something like that. Um, Rendezvous, in my experience, generally tend to be shopping events, or just kind of more like historical fairs.
mhm.
Sometimes you'll see even what's called a timeline event, where they're like letting things in from 1730 all the way to 1930,
Mm.
and people will set up different camps. And you'll see, you'll see fur trade era all the way to like just before the First World War, and so that can be really fun for a family where different members have different interests in periods of history.
Mm-hmm.
So we go to uh, just 2 or 3 rendezvous a year, and we feel a little bit like a fish out of water when we go, because when we started in the hobby, we went to very juried events, and so like that we kind of did it backwards.
Mm.
And I enjoy rendezvous. I have a good time at them. It feels a little strange to me because I'll see things and I'll be like, wait, that's not even close to what people were wearing at the time period, and then I'll remember where I'm at. You know?
Yeah. So I want to add. Typically at rendezvous, they're pre-1840 events. So anything that fits in American history from about 1600 to 1840 is okay there. So you'll see Western fur traders, you'll see long hunters, you'll see colonial settlers, you'll see, sometimes people with matchlocks. It's a little bit. It's more open, like you said, and I think most people do try to do it as authentically as possible, or as possible within their means.
Sure. Yeah.
But it's definitely a looser standards. They're not juried events. You don't have to send in pictures of yourself and your camp to go like you do some of these other events. So they are definitely looser, but they're still a lot of fun.
It's going to be so much better for you to take the rest of this segment, Jason. It's just like, you've been to so many more, and you've been into this a lot longer than I have. I mean, primarily, the only events that I went to I started working at Townsend's in 14, and until just a few years ago, most of the events I went to were just the ones that Townsend sets up at.
Right.
So I mean, aside from just a few walkthroughs here and there of events just to see what was going on or film something. So you got a lot better knowledge than I do. You should take it.
And then, and to add what you were saying earlier, historically, the rendezvous, they started around 1825, like Ethan was saying, and the last one was in 1840. That's why they're pre-1840 events. But they're where the fur traders would meet up out west in the mountains with the fur trappers to get the beaver hides and take them back east so that hats could be made out of them. But they would bring trade goods and money and all that to pay the trappers for their hides versus the trappers having to come all the way back to St. Louis or what have you to trade them in.
I think too, in the contemporary sense, rendezvous, I think sparked or kind of really kicked up in the mid 20th century as well. Like many people that I've talked to got their start going to rendezvous that were kind of spurred out of the bicentennial Thompson Center Hawken release and kind of an infatuation with the 1800s and then the 1700s because of all that kind of anniversary timeline. So many people now who might be a little bit older that got into muzzleloading and living history and that arm of things went to a lot of the rendezvous. Those were some of the larger events at that time. Like my parents and my grandparents, their friends, that was one of the things to do. Like in the 70s and 80s was people went to rendezvous, and that was like the family activity or the family vacation.
Oh yeah,
and I think along with that, many of them have muzzleloading shooting competitions or matches that go along with
almost
it.
all of
So,
them do.
so
When
there's
I
like
was
the camping, there's the trading, and then there's the shooting. It's kind of a trifecta kind of style event.
All right.
When I was a kid, I became familiar with rendezvous um, so I was in a program at church called Royal Rangers when I was growing up, and it's basically the Christian equivalent to Boy Scouts. It's like learn how to start fire, but also learn a Bible verse kind of thing.
Nice.
So there were like leaders within that group that also did rendezvous. And so I knew what rendezvous were before, like, I ever knew what just like living history was. I knew that, you go out and, like, one of the guys that I thought was awesome when I was a kid, he had a TP and he would come set it up, and we would spend the night in the TP, on like behind the church parking lot or something like that. And they had those like those chairs where they basically take like two by tens and like put them.
Hmm.
He had that classic rendezvous kind of gear, and so I knew about that growing up, but I didn't realize that there was a connection to the greater like living history. There are lots of different avenues you can take in this thing.
Right. And I would add to Ethan's comment, that I think the resurgence of rendezvous kind of started because of the Daniel Boone TV show and the Davy
Yeah.
Crockett movies, and then in the '60s, Jeremiah Johnson and the Mountain Men, and then add in the Bicentennial. It kind of helped kick things off. I started going to rendezvous. I went to my first rendezvous as a 15-year-old kid, and it was camping and throwing knives and tomahawks and shooting, three things that I loved. And so I was
Right.
just hooked instantly. And I even had the good fortune to meet my wife at a rendezvous. We met at the Alafia River Rendezvous in Florida
Would
21
that be
years ago.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's going. Is it still going on, or did it end last weekend?
It
Just like
ended.
a little.
I think it ended yesterday
Okay.
or
Yeah.
Yeah,
or Saturday.
and it
Yeah.
and as far as rendezvous go, it is absolutely the largest in the country. The Eastern Primitive Rendezvous used to be bigger, but now Alafia has eclipsed it. It is huge.
Steve Caudle from Daniel Boone of Kentucky posted a really great aerial shot of this year's Alphi that looked awesome. Like it was just cool to see that much canvas up.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably 1,000 or better tents there. It's pretty
How does it
amazing.
compare to Fort Bridger? I know that one's pretty big as well.
I think Fort Bridger has more public through because they
Okay.
really Alify. They only allow the public on the last Friday and Saturday.
Yeah. They
So the
really.
event,
Oh,
yeah, the event starts early. Setup starts Wednesday. The event actually opens the next Saturday, and then they don't allow the public in until the following Friday and Saturday.
oh
So
wow.
you get a lot of time just at the event without public when you go. It's pretty neat event.
Yeah, that's
Well,
cool.
and that circles back around to a question you asked earlier, Ethan. Like Nicole and I have considered going to that rendezvous, but we haven't because the public is so limited. And
Mhm.
when you're there to sell coffee, it's all about it's a numbers game.
Yeah.
More people through the gate, more coffee you're going to sell, kind of thing. So I'm not saying that we would be unsuccessful because reenactors and rendezvous campers they'll buy coffee as well, and we might try it sometime. But that's why it hasn't been like first on our list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
A,
makes
a
sense.
lot of the northern traders really like it because they get down to Florida and escape the winter weather.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of other smaller events like before and after Alify that they can kind of stay down and do a southern loop down there.
Right? Yeah. Yeah. For
And that,
people, I guess there's this whole the audience might know or not know, but there's a whole group of sellers and traders that this is their full time thing, and so
Hmm.
they'll just base their circuit off of. Sometimes they base their circuit off of when they can visit family. Sometimes it's about escaping weather, but they're basically always on the road, going from show to show to show, and that's how they live. And so, if you want a snowbird, it's a great opportunity.
mhm. Yeah, absolutely. Um, you know, to compare Rendezvous to, we were talking about market fairs. So market fair, they're typically a colonial era event, and the dates for them kind of range from about 1750 to 1790 in most cases. And those are a lot of times juried events. So you have to send in pictures of your camp and your clothing. If you're a merchant, the goods you sell to make sure they fit in that time period. So they're a little tighter, still a lot of fun.
Yeah, I love market fairs. A lot of the earlier events that I went to, I don't know if I can think of any like humongous market fairs. Maybe you guys can. It seems like usually they're just kind of mid-sized events or something like that. But we went to
There's
like the
very
locust.
few large ones, and there
Yeah,
seems to be quite a few in kind of that middle tier where there's plenty to do and see and plenty of people to
yeah,
shop from, but it's not almost exhausting to try to see everything.
Well,
Yeah,
because of that, they're generally some of my favorite events.
Yeah.
Just like good mid-sized lots to do, but not exhausting, right? That's a perfect way to describe it.
yeah. Fort Frederick is the largest one that I'm aware of, and like I said, 100 to 150 merchants and a couple of hundred camps. So still a pretty big event. The other outdoor event you have are, like you said, the battle reenactments, where there's typically some form of battle. And Mississinawa, I think they're a battle reenactment, but with a lot of market fare thrown in. They're like a
Hmm.
combination of the two.
Yeah.
And there's always going to be merchants at reenactments and battle reenactments, but Mississinawa is a little bit bigger than your usual one.
Yeah, it's a
I think,
crazy little hybrid event and they do a lot of interesting things for the reenactors that are camping too. Like it's just kind of they're a little different than a lot where they'll have a period dance every year for reenactors that are camping, and they'll get together in a great tent with musicians and they'll do that. And not to say other events don't, but that crossover between battle reenactment and market fair with this, I don't know, it's got a particular feel to it after hours too. It's just a different kind of
mhm.
event.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then you've got indoor shows. So you've got like your living history shows like Kalamazoo, which it's a timeline. It goes all the way up to 1890. Is that correct, Ethan?
Yeah, it's pre 1890. Yeah.
Yeah. So you'll have people there selling Civil War wares, cowboy action type
Yeah.
stuff, and colonial stuff. And then because of the early forts that are up in that area, you'll see matchlocks there pretty
Hmm.
frequently, and older stuff, people dressed in 1720 clothing.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a couple groups I think that do like 1690. Um, I think as we talk about this, it's the way I think about it, at least, is there's a big Venn diagram of all these events,
Right.
and
Yeah,
and
yeah.
there's some crossover. So like
Yeah.
Kalamazoo is a timeline event. It's a little bit of a market fair or a
Yeah.
trade fair, and it's an indoor show.
Yeah.
There's kind of those, a lot of events have a couple different slices.
Well,
Hmm.
And you can kind of gauge
Kalamazoo,
things on that.
they even have that the educational rooms with like there are a lot of presentations that are happening there too. They've got a lot going on. They've kind of got their hand in Kalamazoo's got his hand in everything other than a battle reenactment.
Boy, that building would get smoky. Uh,
I,
yeah, and then the other type of indoor show are artisan shows, and that's where you're going
mhm.
to see less mass-produced items, more handmade, individually made items like powder horns or guns or knives or the
Bags and
related
clothes.
accoutrements. Yeah,
And that's
so
something like the CLA show or the Lake Cumberland show where it's not as large as some of like Fort Fred or Kalamazoo, but it has a little bit of that vibe because there's quite a bit to see.
and then now that we've talked about events, there's some events that we're not going to, but I think deserve honorable mentions. Alify is one of them, being the biggest rendezvous in the country. The second weekend in March, out in Enumclaw, Washington, is the Cascade Mountain Man show, and it's a
Oh
big
yeah.
indoor living history show. It's almost as big as Kalamazoo. I think it's about 2/3 as big as Kalamazoo, so it's pretty easily the second biggest indoor show in the country. Great event. I haven't been out there to it since 2014, but it's definitely a good one if you're on the West Coast. And then the first weekend in February is the Artisan Show in Pennsylvania, the 18th Century Artisan Show.
I'd love to get out to that one. It just
Yeah, same here.
has not worked out
Yeah,
yet.
yeah. It's a 10-hour drive, solid 10-hour drive for me,
Yep.
and you never know what the weather is going to be like there. I've heard of people from down here getting snowed in up there and having to stay several extra days, but it's definitely one I would like to get to.
For
And then
Ryan
there's
or me, it would be all chance of lake effect.
Yeah.
The
right.
drive out and the drive back. Like it's just
Yeah.
solid lake effect. And it's just
Lake effect until you hit the mountains.
yeah.
And then another show that I've heard really, really good things about is the New England Colonial Fair or Colonial Market. It is in New Hampshire. I want to say it's the second weekend of March. I'd have to double check, but I've
It's in
heard
that
nothing
time
but
frame.
good things about that. Yeah.
And that I've heard has a lot of really great early stuff, like really neat New England guns and arms and accoutrements. Like some of the
Hmm.
early stuff that we don't see, at least where I'm at out here, where we're a little
Yeah.
farther west.
Right.
A couple of events that I think are really great, and I may still find time to go to that we've gone to in the past, and I don't think we will this year. Fair in New Boston is a really good
Hmm.
event.
It is a good event.
Over in Springfield, Ohio,
It's a hot one.
and yeah, that one's really hot. Um, and then the Fort Loudon event is a really great event too over in Pennsylvania. Um, it's a smaller event that has a lot of really great vendors. I mean, I don't know how. I don't think I've been to an event that size. I guess it's more of a medium-sized event. It's not small. I'm just. It's in the same kind of neighborhood as Fort Frederick, and so I have that in my head to compare it to, and it's not nearly that large, but they have really fantastic vendors.
Yeah,
It's a
Bryant White runs the vendors for that
yeah,
event. Bryant is one of my dearest friends, and he does a great job. I would say the I've only been to that event once. I went to it the first year, and it was absolutely the best first year event I've ever been to.
okay.
It was fantastic. The only reason I don't go is because it is so hot.
That's the same for us, unfortunately. Like I hate that that's the reason, but when you have, especially when you have a schedule where you have things back to back to back,
Mhm.
like sleeping in a tent when it's 90 degrees can just be the worst thing in the world.
Yeah, it for me, it's pretty bad.
Like,
The other problem with Fort Loudon is it does conflict with the Kentucky Rifle Association's annual show. That's an event we didn't really talk about because it's a members only event. You have to be sponsored to join, and it takes a it's not like you could walk in and join at the CLA show. It takes a little bit of effort to get in, but it is a really good event, and the KRA does a great job promoting antique guns. It's all about antique
Hmm.
guns,
hmm.
and not
I'd
just
like.
any antique guns, American antique guns.
I know that there's stuff that we're forgetting about. I've never been up to Ticonderoga. They're supposed to have some good
I
events.
want to get up there
Um,
so bad.
too. Like I know that there's a lot of stuff that's slipping my mind right now that but if you guys go to reenacting or is it reenacting or reenactorschedule.org?
Reenacting.
Yeah, reenactingschedule.org has they've just done a new ramp up on the website. They've got so many great events on there, and it's kind of like all over the spectrum for living history. So
Yep.
anything that you're looking for is on there. It's a great resource.
Yeah, no, that's a fantastic resource that Frank and Carol Jarbo created just
Uh,
for our hobby, and I'm super thankful they did. I've referred a lot of people to it.
I'd like to mention the Gunmakers Fair at Kempton. I went out there. I think I've
hearing
been out
about
there 1 or 2 years, and it's just a really great show if you are interested in muzzleloading history and accoutrements and making that stuff. Just the seminars alone at that show make it worth it. I mean, you could watch seminars all day, 3 days, and watch a different one and learn something about a different topic that entire time. And in in addition to that, there's a ton of great craftsmen and vendors there as well. And that's kind of on the eastern side of Pennsylvania. And I think it's the last weekend in July. So it is hot as all get out, but it is a great show to go and learn and connect with people and talk with craftsmen about their craft and their trade and what they're doing. The School of the Long Hunter as well. I think it's in Virginia, and that's coming up in
It's at
March.
West Virginia at
West
Prickett's
Virginia.
Ford State Park.
Yeah, fantastic event. I would love to get to at some point. It's just timing has not worked out. And then the Honorable Company of Horners has their annual event And it is, I believe it's open to the public. They encourage you to join, of course, to support their efforts to preserve horn work and education. I think that's the first weekend in March. That's also in Pennsylvania too, but that's a great educational event, and there's a little bit of shopping to go along with it. But they put on some really great seminars there about historic horn work.
Yeah,
So
fantastic.
we mentioned the invitation only event, but one thing that we haven't really talked about, and maybe it's not for this episode, but private events, which are
Yeah,
just so fantastic, and a lot of times they start out as, or even continue on as, and never really have the idea of growing. And it's just kind of getting together on somebody's property with one goal in mind, and that is to um, interact with history in every way that they can with a group of friends. And it's a really special thing if folks have never done that before. I know both of you guys have done some of that. I have too. What are your thoughts on that?
I think this is a topic we would be better served to save for a future episode. Maybe get somebody on here with us that's hosted some private events. I think
Yeah,
that'd be a really cool thing to do.
yeah,
I
I
really
think
like
so.
those kind of events. They're the only ones I feel like I can kind of unplug from being Ethan from I Love Muzzleloading, and I can just kind of be there. A lot of times, I have permission to do some filming or some photography, but I really try to do it on the down low and not overdo it to take away from the ambiance of it. But it's just neat to just I mean, if you're not friends with everybody there at that scale of event, you probably will be when you leave, or
Right.
people more intimately. That's not to say I don't like the other events, but um, if I can get to one of those a year, I really try to because it's that special, I guess is how I'd think about it. But yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's another topic for sure to go into.
There are other occasions where it hasn't been planned as an event, but it's been planned as a work project. But
Hmm.
I've been a part of, erecting a cabin or a barn in period clothing with other people in period clothing camping. And it's not thought of as an event, but it kind of turns into one. And I think that's a really special thing too that we should talk about sometime.
Yeah,
Yeah, that'd be great. Well, guys, we've recorded about an hour. You think we've covered everything we want to cover for this episode?
Yeah, I think so. I
I
mean,
think so.
I hope the folks come out to some of these events and say hi. And um, I love, like, one of my favorite things is if you go out to an event that I'm at and it's like your first event or you're just getting started, one of the first five, tell me that because I want to talk to you about it. That's
Yeah.
exciting. So I think
Yeah.
probably all feel that way.
Yeah, no, yeah. Same goes for me. Come find me, say hello, and I'll be happy to help you any way I can.
Uh,
I think it's so much fun. Like for me, Kalamazoo's a big one, obviously, but being at that show and seeing somebody new come in, and they have kind of a deer in the headlights look. Like Alex from the Frontier Trading Company came
Yeah.
to Kalamazoo the first time last year, and he's somebody who's been doing this largely on his own, except for the last 3 or 4 years. And he started like Prickett's Fort's a huge one for him, and he went out to Martin Station last year as well. But seeing him come into Kalamazoo, it was just incredible because he was just in awe. I mean, it was fantastic to for him to come in and say, "Okay, what do you want to see? What can I help you find?" And like I think I brought him around to meet you guys and introduce you guys, and that set him on a path then that he was able to bounce around the show and meet people he's only talked to or seen online, pick up some things that he needed, but then I think after he had gone or when he'd gotten home, he mentioned that he didn't see like hardly anything at the show. He felt like because there's so much to do, and like
Yeah.
those kind of moments, I love to foster at an event like that because it's just so special. You're opening somebody up to more of this, I think, than they ever thought was possible. Not to make it sound more grandiose than it is, but like if you see us at these things, let us help you have that kind of moment. And, what are you looking for? We're going to have some suggestions or know somebody who can help you out in finding something that you're looking for or answer a question that you have. That's what it's
Challenges.
about. I mean, it's so cool to be able to do that and help people with that.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
that's like the first show that, like, if you have an opportunity for, if you like have even the slightest inkling that you would enjoy doing this hobby, I've told so many people to start out at Kalamazoo because, number one, anything that they might need, they'll be able to purchase. But they'll also be able to talk to the people that are making it. And oftentimes those people want to share their knowledge. And so if you want to make what they sell, they're probably going to give you a couple pointers on like how you could make it too.
Yeah.
And also, it's just you can compare things side to side. You can say, well, I don't know if I need this one or this one, but then you can turn around and whoever's behind you walking next to you is probably going to know why you need which one. And so it's
Yes.
Right.
just, and the thing is like there are some hobbies where asking questions is a faux pas, and this isn't one of them. Like
Oh
people,
no,
Right.
absolutely not.
they just want to share. Like we're a bunch of kind of weirdos that have knowledge that nobody necessarily needs to survive, but we're excited
Are
about it. We just want to pass it along.
are you projecting?
And I think,
No, yeah.
not to drag it out, because this has been going for so long, but I think that is one of the best things about these events and what makes it so great that they've kept going as long as they have. Like we've talked about a bit of a gambit here of different kinds of events and events that have been going on or have continued through time here. But they serve as a great jumping off point. And if you're in an area where you can get to one easily, if it's less than a 10-hour drive, like 4 hours is kind of my comfortable limit. And with kids, it might be a little less, but getting out to these events is a great jumping off point. Like being on the forums and the Facebook groups and talking to people online is one thing, but getting to an event and having conversations and being at a point where somebody can say, this is how I do it. This is why I like to do it. And this is why. And they can show you, how they make something or why they do something that they do. Like being able to go through that, you can get that from one person and you can get that from like 100 other people as well. And you're going to go away with the knowledge that you were looking for to get started and a bunch of different opinions on what you could do, but you're going to go away with a lot of kind of contact points as well. Like the internet and
Right.
videos and things are fantastic, but I think my kind of closing thought on these events and us going to them and things here is it's a fantastic experience because you're going to learn something new every time and you're going to meet new people that might become mentors or friends forever. I mean, I passed you guys at events for like 10 or 15, 20 years before I knew who you were, but like I'd walk through tables or, like listen to you guys talking about something else, here and there. And now we're sitting here doing this. And I think that's really
Yeah.
cool. And that's
For,
made possible by events.
yeah, from my own perspective, as cool as the guns are, as interesting as the history is, as neat as the different accoutrements are, it's the people that make the hobby
Oh,
so
yeah.
awesome. And that's my favorite thing is getting to events, hanging out with friends and visiting. And, I was lucky that I turned my passion into my career, but that's not why I go to events. I don't go to events because I have Muzzleloader magazine. I have Muzzleloader magazine because I want to go to events.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very true. That's great. That's a great way to put it.
Well, I think that'll wrap up this episode of Firelock and Quill podcast. Thanks for joining us. This podcast is brought to you by
I love muzzleloading. Your source for muzzleloading gooberness and research and muzzleloading news.
Ryan, a Blue Lion coffee. You know, we sell good coffee.
That's
It's
good.
probably better than that. What was it? The Hudson Bay coffee.
I'd say so, yeah.
You people will get that in a future episode. And then I'm Jason from Muzzleloader Magazine. Since 1974, Muzzleloader has been the publication for traditional black powder shooters and living historians. You can find us at muzzleloadermagazine.com. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Have a great day, and we appreciate y'all. All right, I have stopped recording.
That's a wrap.
We're done.
Jeez, guys, we done did
So-
it.
All right, so when is it going to launch?